Hello, so this is how doors are going to work in the game now. So they're their own section of the map now, rather than just being sandwiched between two other sections. This has some benefits. It simplifies navigation. It just means that every feature of the map is its own kind of piece and section. So path finding and path following just has to move through a list of pieces of the map. And if one's a door, it can just query and say, is this open? Otherwise, you can't move through it. Um, it also means that doors can be put between a room and a corridor, or a corridor and a corridor, or even between two rooms. A door could even be put next to a door. So it means it supports all those combinations. It means that every piece of the level, every level piece has to have a standard connector. At the moment, with these prototype pieces, it's a D kind of shape like this. Another thing I wanted to point out is that I was going to have doors opening upwards, but you can see a bit of a problem. If you were walking down this corridor, you suddenly just get slapped by a door just popping up from the floor below. So that's not going to be possible anymore. I want to be able to have floors close together to try and compact things vertically. So what I'm going to do is have doors opening in this direction. Because the player is going to be looking from this angle, there's going to be very sort of limited depth perception, especially at this directly at this angle. It's possible now. It's probably going to have some sort of indicator to say whether the door's opened or closed, like a light or something. It shouldn't be too bad. A benefit of opening like this is that it's an excuse for saying as soon as the door starts opening, you can see what's behind the door. Whereas with this upwards, you shouldn't really be able to see into the other room yet until it gets to a certain position based on height. But you can sort of like cheat here because you can't see how far the door is inwards. So anyway, that covers doors. If I switch over to Unity now, I've made some changes. The level editor and the room editor are now in the game itself. I've done that so that I'm only maintaining one asset tree. I don't have to export prefabs of rooms and so forth because the room prefabs are coming a bit more complicated now. There's a bit of sort of metadata and stuff with them as well. So I've got these. So for example, the level editor now is simple. It's just grid based. It doesn't even bother stitching the rooms together yet. Because the level editor is just for dev testing, I can just kind of try and avoid mistakes as much as I can. So I'm going to try and just create a quick level here, just to demonstrate another thing that I've been working on. I want to make it have some sort of verticalness to it to demonstrate this. Put another staircase in. I'm a bit limited on the kind of levels I can make, because I've only got 3 pieces, as you can see. So there we go. So if I now hit what effectively is run, so my mouse wheel sensitivity is horrible. Let me zoom it. Let me try and zoom out a bit here. So try and move to the right a bit as I do that. Okay. So what you can see here now, I've actually implemented a tile-based field of view. So basically, this is hiding parts of the map you shouldn't be able to see. So these white blobs are meant to be units. At the moment, you can only move them in the scene editor. So let me do that. Now, if I just up the lighting just to make things a bit easier. At the moment, there's a conflict between shadows as part of lighting and parts of the map that are meant to be greyed out because you can't see them. There's a conflict between those two. I need to find a solution for that. But as this unit moves through the level, at the moment you can see there's this grid here. This is, you can see now, so you can see the implementation of this. It's actually a mesh overlay which just covers up parts of the map you can't see because they're not visible at the moment. So this is shroud, so completely blacking out areas of the map you can't see. Now as this unit moves further inwards, further closer into towards the right to this level, parts of the map now become visible up the stairs and so forth. So you can see that it's actually cut away part of this. Now as you move, if I move back down here, you can see this other effect. Where's my unit gone? Oh, effect changed the Z position by mistake. So you can see that these areas up here, it's probably easier if I show this by moving the unit more to the right. Let's move the unit up here. You can see that this area, this room down here is greyed out. So this isn't shroud, this is fog of war. So this is areas of the map you have seen before, but you can't currently see. So as an aid to, well, really sort of memory, and it's just quite nice. It will still show areas of the map you visited, so you can still see the shape of the level, almost like a map you build up. But you can't see any activity in those rooms. So to indicate that, it's sort of greyed out. Ideally, I'd have some sort of like mesh texture or something to indicate you can't see these, so it's clear it's not just shadow. But the idea is that you can't see enemies. You wouldn't be able to see enemies moving in here. You'd only be able to see enemies in sections that you can see. So the algorithm this uses is a roguelike algorithm. So this is on Rogue Basin, details of this recursive shadow casting algorithm. It's got some nice ASCII diagrams here to explain it. It basically splits vision into 8 parts and does each one of those separately. Yeah, so here's the player. These dots are areas you can see. These hashes are walls, and S are shadows. It's called shadow casting, but it actually is calculating visible tiles. Not actually calculating the shadows. The shadows are just the parts that aren't visible. So there's some issues with this. One is that movement is gradual and unit placement is gradual in this game, but suddenly you've got this grid resolution. So you can see that, for example, here, when you just change by pixel, you suddenly your unit moves by a single pixel, but it shifts into an entirely different tile, and as a result you get this sudden, huge change in visible tiles across that threshold. One solution for this is to increase the resolution of the grid. That'll make it a bit more computational intensive to do this, bearing in mind that if I want to support, like, say 20 units under the player's control, they're all going to be able to generating their own. For example, I've got a unit here. If I drag this one on, this one's generating its own FOV2. What's going on here? Yeah. So if you have a unit down here, even though this unit can't see up here and this unit can't see down here, the player can see everything that all units under their control can see. So it's almost they provide the player's eyes, really. But say you had 20 units, that's going to get quite computationally intensive. But not as it stands, because this is incredibly low resolution. This tile grid is incredibly low resolution. But if I up this, it will slow things down a bit. So there's a conflict between the way placement and movement works, which is gradual, and the sort of discreteness of grid-based vision. So I was looking at this other method that's on this Red Blob Games site, one of these what I call sort of geometry-based field of view. So it's so it creates a kind of polygon. Actually, if I scroll down, there's an example here. So it's actually made up of triangles. So it generates this. So this is nice and smooth. So you move a pixel, the whole thing changes per pixel. It's very accurate. In some ways, though, with a strategy game, tile-based movement and tile-based vision are almost better, like original XCOM, for example, because it's like chess. You want everything to be predictable. You want to know, if I'm standing here, what can I see? And it's easier calculated when you've got a grid. But I kind of want to have gradual movement. I don't really want to go to tile-based. I'm sort of going that way, though, aren't I, with the level editor? But I want to try and keep it, especially if I want to have terrain on the surface, I'd like to have things a bit more sort of bumpy. So maybe I'm going to try this anyway, see what this looks like. I'm even thinking of choosing some sort of hybrid approach, having this for the generation of polygon, but also having a grid-based field of view, so you can test quickly whether enemies are visible. Because the way you'd have to do it with this is that for each enemy, you'd have to see whether they were contained in any of these triangles. I think that would still work. I think that's about it for the video. Next time, hopefully, I will have I'll have figured out the field of view stuff and be moving on to fixing the navigation, so I don't just have to drag around these units manually. Anyway, thank you for watching.